Following the latest developments in the mysterious death of Nolan Wells, the 18-year-old Mississippi teen whose body was found washed ashore after disappearing during a trip to Horn Island, a former Mississippi judge is now raising concerns about how the investigation has been handled. Carlos Moore, a Mississippi attorney and former municipal court judge, recently shared his views on the case, arguing that investigators should have taken stronger action by now based on the information that has become publicly available. Moore, who previously served on the municipal court bench for more than 6 years, has also been known for speaking out on issues involving racial discrimination during his legal career. On Friday evening, he hosted a Facebook live stream lasting more than 30 minutes, where he outlined what he believes are several troubling aspects of the investigation and questioned how local authorities have handled the case thus far. His comments reflect his personal legal opinion and are not official findings. As of now, investigators have not announced any arrests, and the Jackson County Sheriff's Department has stated that the investigation remains ongoing.
It's time out for playing games. It's time to know the truth from someone well-versed in it, that has actual experience. I've worn the robe, the black robe, and I've presided over these trials or preliminary hearings, arraignments, and initial appearances. Let's get started. So what do we know? We know, after watching the parents' interview and reviewing tons of footage from social media, recounting interviews and statements of alleged witnesses that were on Horn Island, we know that Nolan Wells went to spend the night on July the 3rd with his so-called friends. And he went with those so-called friends to Horn Island on a boat on July the 4th. We know that out of the 4 people on that boat, 1 did not return home. That 1 person was Nolan Wells. The other 3 returned home as normal and said nothing to any member of law enforcement or to the Coast Guard until at least 11 p.m. at night on July the 4th. We know that at least 1 of the so-called friends was found with the phone of Nolan Wells. And we know this based on the testimony of the parents, specifically the mother, who tracked the phone and was led to the home of one of the young men where she retrieved the phone. We also know that based on the mother's testimony that there were no Snapchats from the day, which was very odd for her son. We also know that text messages were deleted. We know that when she was tracking the phone, Life 360 said the phone was one place and Snapchat said it was another place. We know that the boy that had the phone did not voluntarily turn it over or call first. He had to be found through their own investigation. We know that based on witnesses' account, the so-called friends were seen on July the 5th, that Sunday, having breakfast together like nothing had happened. They were not out there searching for their so-called friend. We know that the so-called friends deleted their social media, deactivated their accounts, and scrubbed it clean if the allegations are correct. We know that the young man that had the car at his house did not willingly turn over the keys. At first, he said that he did not have the keys. He didn't know where they were. Then after being pressed by the father, he finally turned over the keys. This is all very suspicious activity. We know that based on an audio recording and some video that Nolan Wells can be heard saying, "Give me my freaking keys." Excuse me, "Give me my freaking phone." And there's been two different versions. Some say he said, "Give me my freaking phone," or some say he said, "Give me my ML phone." Regardless, he was asking or demanding his phone. Someone had his phone who did not have permission to have his phone. So the first thing I see, the simplest thing I see, is who had his phone and why? And was that theft of the phone? Sometimes we look at the largest case, we try to get to murder, but the person that took his phone committed a crime right there. There are witnesses to who took that phone. If an affidavit is signed, an arrest warrant could be signed by a judge in Mississippi to go after that person that had that phone unlawfully. We know, based on his own words, Nolan Wells' words while he was alive, he did not give whoever had that phone permission to have that phone. So was that theft? I think if an affidavit is signed, if it was presented to me when I was a judge, I would have signed an arrest warrant for the person for theft of that phone, based on what I've heard. It'd have to be an affidavit format, but if it was presented to me in affidavit format from law enforcement, I would sign the arrest warrant for, at least at this point, theft of the man's phone. We know who had it. We know who didn't report it to the family. The family had to go find it, and we know that Nolan Wells said give it back to him, and evidently it was not given back to him. Why was that? All of the other things I've stated, you piece it together. Is there enough right now for arrest warrants for murder? That is a good question. I do know at this point there should have been search warrants signed by a judge. Evidence should have been presented to a judge by now. We are nearly 7 days after July the 4th, when he was first reported missing. There should have been evidence submitted by Jackson County law enforcement agents, the sheriff's department specifically, presented to a judge so that search warrants could be signed by the judge. And there needs to be, or should have been, someone questioning the young men, the three so-called friends, and others, and their social media accounts need to be searched by now, or at least a search warrant should have been issued for the appropriate entities to give the law enforcement access to the social media information. That should have been done by now. I'm not telling you what I imagine. I'm telling you what the process usually is when you're trying to do a thorough investigation. And based on what's revealed from a thorough investigation, I do believe once the evidence is secured, it's going to lead, and it should lead, to the arrest of one or more individuals for the murder of Nolan Wells. All of the actions are very suspicious, and right now they lead one to believe that one or more persons could have been involved with the death of Nolan Wells. Right now we have a lot of unsworn testimony, but once that is put into affidavit format and there is corroborating evidence through social media, computers, or otherwise, I believe that at that point there will be enough evidence for a judge to sign an arrest warrant. I think critical evidence that's missing right now are the results of the autopsy, the state's autopsy and the independent autopsy. That's going to be critical information. And that alone, or that in connection with what's already known, may be enough to lead to an arrest or arrest. We do know at this point, low-hanging fruit, there should be an investigation about the underage drinking, who provided the alcohol. Those individuals could be immediately arrested based on if there was any sworn testimony presented to a judge. I believe a judge could immediately sign an arrest warrant for those who provided the alcohol to underage individuals. There's a lot of people and a lot of potential crimes, some misdemeanors and felonies, that people could be held accountable for. Was there any boating while intoxicated? Who was the captain of the boat? And what did he allow on his boat? If there were any illegal drugs possessed by anyone, drugs are still illegal in Mississippi, at least they were when I was on the bench. Drug possession, drug use, selling of drugs, dealing drugs, trafficking drugs. We've heard testimony, or allegations at least. I don't think anything's been put in affidavit format yet, about rampant drug use among certain individuals. So there are a lot of things that's been alleged. Once put into the correct format, affidavit wise, it could lead to arrest for several things, including misdemeanors and maybe even felonies. So there's a lot left to do. We are not rushing to judgment, but I just thought I would come on here and tell you that there definitely should be search warrants issued by now, and there could be arrest warrants for certain crimes issued by now. But for the ultimate crime of murder, it is probably wise to wait to see what the autopsy reveals, or the both autopsies reveal, and then parcel that together with all the video footage, all the witness statements taken, any affidavits gathered, and then make a decision, get it all to a judge at that point, for a judge to decide whether or not to sign a warrant for the arrest of one or more individuals. It would be very interesting to see what the autopsy shows. There's also the potential for kidnapping. It needs to be looked at whether or not they can get to murder. Was there kidnapping? Was this young man taken somewhere against his will at any point? Was there abuse of a corpse even after he died? So there's a lot of things that need to be looked at from various law enforcement perspectives. Law enforcement has to do their job and get the information to a judge in the right format before a judge can act. Had I still been on the bench, if I wanted to act, I could not act unilaterally. I would have to wait till law enforcement brought me the evidence in the right format before I could sign an arrest warrant, before I could sign a search warrant. And so that's how the process works. That's how the process works. And so I am happy to be a retired judge. I'm always going to shoot it to you straight with no chaser. Straight with no chaser. I will tell you the God honest truth. I can tell you this one thing. I may have been born at night, but I was not born last night. And one thing about it, you cannot fool the informed. I've been on the inside. I know the process, and we will not sit quietly and allow this to be swept under the rug. I will call your hand. I will call your hand. You are not going to play these people for a fool. You are not going to play these people for a fool. We know the process. We know what you should be doing. And by God, I plan to make sure you do it. Or we're going to call you out each and every time. There is a process. What I do know is, had the roles been reversed, by now, there would likely have been already arrests made. It wouldn't have taken all 6 days, 7 days, or whatever amount of days it's going to take. Had the roles been reversed, justice, the wheels of justice spin quickly. Somebody would have been arrested for something by now. But since the roles are what they are, we are expected to be patient, and they're going to cross every T and they're going to dot every I in the investigation before they make a move, because of the people that are potentially involved. And that's the way the criminal justice system works, unfortunately. If you have access to power or money, in some instances, if you're the right color or the right hue, you will get the benefit of the doubt. And regardless of all of that, based on what I've heard, not in the affidavits I've seen, if the affidavits come to support what I've heard, I do believe, especially with the autopsy, once that is in, and then if we look at the body to see if there were any bruises or anything else, it should lead to the arrest of one or more individuals for murder, for accessory to murder, for conspiracy to commit murder, aggravated assault, kidnapping, and a list of other possible things. But right now, I could say that based on that video evidence of him demanding his phone back, someone could immediately be arrested for theft, wrongful conversion of his property. And once you make that first arrest, you start putting pressure on people. It becomes very serious at that point. No one wants their loved ones sitting behind bars, even jail bars, definitely not prison bars. So it becomes very serious at that point. And there are persons of interest that should have been interviewed by now, should have been questioned, picked up, and taken to the station, even if they didn't voluntarily go. There are certain people that should be classified as suspects by now. They should not just be persons of interest. They should be actual suspects. I do not agree with the sheriff saying right now foul play is not suspected. He should have said right now it is too early to tell one way or the other if he was going to say anything and try to be fair and impartial. Because all of this suspicious stuff, the suspicion and the actions of the individuals themselves lead you to believe that something is awry. And the stories are not adding up. The stories are not adding up. So if you believed that he stayed with a young lady, why were you calling the Coast Guard at 11 p.m. at night on July the 4th? And why did the Coast Guard somehow forget that and then remember it? And it's just very strange. And why would you lawyer up before there is even a body found? If my best friend died by drowning accidentally, the last thing I'm going to be doing is hiring a lawyer. I'm going to be too busy grieving my friend's accidental death. And I would not, in my wildest imagination, ever think that anyone would suspect me of a crime. Accidents happen all of the time. All of the time. And one thing about it, if I had been there when he drowned, I would probably been so exhausted from trying to save him that I wouldn't have time to think about hiring a lawyer, or time for my parents to think about hiring a lawyer. And if I am recalling things correctly, I do believe that one of those young people's parents went out to the island. Now, this is a bunch of young folks. I believe one of the mothers got on Facebook and said she went to the island at some point. Why was she there? What was she doing? She was not in their age group. I don't know too many parents that go to a teenage gathering or young person's gathering. What was she doing? I'm curious to know. I'm not even on the bench anymore, but I'm very curious to know what she was out there doing and who she may have been coaching, or what she may have been an accessory to. It's very odd that she was out there, because I'm sure she was not on the guest list. When I tell you I'm tired, it's because I am. It's time for us to have the knowledge. I got my law degree in 2002. So you're looking at somebody that has nearly a quarter of a century of experience in the legal realm. I spent 6.5 years on the bench. I am not going to mislead you, because too many of us have gone along to get along for too long. I have to meet my maker's face in peace. I have to look myself in the mirror. I'm not going to betray you. Enough is enough is enough. I know no one wants to see their loved one go to prison or be held accountable. But if the shoe fits, you might as well get ready to wear it. No one is above the law. And if you can't do your job because you're friends with certain people, you need to recuse yourself. Recuse yourself and let somebody that can do their job correctly do it. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have about the process or anything I just said. There is a criminal justice process, and I know how things should go. And when they don't go as they should, you have to ask yourself why. Again, I'm Judge Carlos Moore. I've been coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. I've been living here now nearly 3 years, but Mississippi is home. The Gulf Coast is home. I know several members of the Wells family and the Wansley family, and again, they have my deepest condolences for their loss. It's tragic. Tragic folks that you trusted your loved one to spend time with. Left an island without having the decency to account for your son. That's sad. I can't imagine the level of pain. And I've heard some people say that the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division should come in and investigate, or the FBI, MBI, who actually has jurisdiction to do this. Those are good questions. We may need more assistance besides the local law enforcement to get down to the bottom of this. If there's anyone that's truly willing to live up to the oath they took, they swore as a law enforcement officer, as a judge, if you're willing to live up to that oath and be unbiased and do a true investigation and consider the facts fairly, please step up. And if you can't do the job fairly, please step aside. This is too serious. You have too many educated people watching this case now, and we're not going to let you get away with murder, potentially, with no one being held accountable. We're not going to do it. Whoever did something untoward needs to be held accountable, needs to go before a jury of their peers, and need to let that jury of their peers decide their guilt or innocence. The standards for an arrest warrant is simple, probable cause to believe a crime has been committed. The judge has to have probable cause, more likely than not, that a crime has been committed for an arrest warrant to be signed. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's probable cause, more likely than not. That's a very low burden to meet. And the evidence needs to get to a judge pretty soon. We know that won't be the end all just because there will be an arrest. At some point, I do believe it's still going to be a long process. The local judge, the municipal judge, as I was, will have to do the arraignment and decide whether or not the individual or individuals get bail and what that bail amount will be. If it's a capital offense or if it's a first degree murder charge or manslaughter charge, or whatever it may be, kidnapping, aggravated assault, that the judge will have to set bail or decide or deny it. Will the persons be flight risk? All that has to be taken into consideration. From there, there will be a preliminary hearing likely where the evidence will be presented to that local judge, who will get to decide whether or not to bind it over to a grand jury or dismiss the charge. Once it's bound over to a grand jury, it'll be up to the grand jury to decide what to actually indict the individuals for. And then once there is an indictment or indictments are secured, individuals will have to stand trial, or if they plead not guilty, to get to stand trial. Otherwise, if they plead guilty, it could go immediately to sentencing. You would expect, based on what I've seen so far, that there won't be any guilty pleas automatically, and this probably will go to trial. You have contradicting stories. You have Katie that's saying one thing. You have the young man that's saying another. I see Katie has not lawyered up, from what I have been told, and she's been speaking freely, and her family's been speaking freely. Whereas I understand that some others have decided not to speak to the press and have lawyered up. And people are entitled in this country. You are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. There's nothing wrong with lawyering up. In fact, if it was my family, I would advise my family to remain quiet too. That's what lawyers do. We advise them to remain quiet. They have a right to remain quiet. And a lot of times you remain quiet for good reason, because anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. But people also have a right to be suspicious of why individuals lawyered up so fast. Why are they not talking? This is serious. It's serious business. People's potential freedom are on the line, and somebody has lost their life. Someone has lost their life. At least the people that's alive still have a fighting chance. You never know what a jury in Mississippi will do. We do know that no one ever was held accountable for Emmett Till's murder, despite the evidence, the overwhelming evidence. No one was ever held accountable. I can only hope and pray that in 2026, 2027, should the facts be presented to a jury of peers, that it'll be given reasonable consideration, and that if the facts are proven beyond a reasonable doubt, that the individuals that may soon be arrested and tried for the death, for their role in the death of Nolan Wells, will be held accountable. That's all we can hope and pray for, and we will have to live with whatever the jury's verdict is, because in this country, if you go through the entire process, we live with the verdict of the jury. It has to be a unanimous verdict, and they get to decide guilt or an acquittal. And if they cannot agree, it's a hung jury, and the prosecution gets to decide if they try the case again. They can continue to try it again until they get a unanimous decision one way or the other. So it's going to be a long road ahead. Keep the Wells and Wansley's family in your prayers. They have to deal with all of this in a very public light. They are not allowed to grieve privately because of the very public nature of this death. And so it's a lot to process. One day your life is going as normal, and the next day you are thrown in the limelight. But I applaud the parents for standing together and fighting for answers. And they have been very good. They are not accusing anybody of anything. They just simply want answers. And once those answers are given and properly investigated, they are hoping that the right thing is done. And that's my hope too. Whatever the evidence leads to, as long as there has been a thorough investigation, I'm willing to accept that. But I do not want anyone getting any favoritism. I want a complete, thorough investigation, and I'm glad another independent investigation is going alongside the law enforcement investigation. Again, I had the privilege of serving the great people of Mississippi, because the people of Mississippi, for a large part, certain people I consider great in Mississippi. I used to call the state great. I no longer will refer to it as the great state of Mississippi because it still has a lot of growing to do. It's not a place that I feel comfortable living any longer and raising my family. And I would encourage any of my friends to move to Mississippi in this current configuration. It's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous place with a deep-seated racism. And they are known to try to keep Black people in their place. So no matter what your socioeconomic status is as a Black person in Mississippi, they are known to try to keep you in your place. And one thing about me, I decided where my place was. No one else got to decide where that place was. And my place was equal with theirs. And in my eyes, I was always equal, never beneath. My parents raised me to believe you are no better than anyone, and you are no worse than anyone. You are equal. I believe that, and I do believe that's how we all should be treated. Equal justice under the law. And all men are created equal, and we are endowed with unalienable rights. I believe that. And America will be forced to live up to his promise. It will be forced to live up to his promise. I could go on and on, but I have been here to express from my viewpoint the perch that I had as one who wore the robe in not one, but two jurisdictions in Mississippi, where I signed countless search warrants and arrest warrants. I know the process, and I'm happy to have enlightened you on tonight. Please share this with your friends. Let them hear it from the horse's mouth, because people will have you to believe that you're crazy based on your suspicions. A lot of your suspicions and what you're saying, you're dead on, you're dead right. You're hitting the nail on the head. Keep asking the questions, keep prodding. And if you ever want to know if you're on the right track, I'm just a chat or email away.